So what is the reasoning behind your bill? Can you just tell us a little about it?
So our bill is to legalize prostitution and basically get rid of the stigma around it and make it safer for the women involved and get the tax revenue too. So we look at it as like a win-win situation.
Okay, so like, what's wrong with prostitution now?
So obviously a big problem with prostitution right now is that it's not legal, which makes it really unsafe for a lot of the men and women that participate in it. So without legislation, there's no regulation, which means that there's no STD testing, there's no labor unions, there's no HR that many women and men would get if they were working in a normal business, say if they're working as like an accountant or something like that. So yeah, without the legislation that we have, that we currently don't have, there can be no regulation, and thus it's very, very unsafe for a lot of women and men.
So by passing this bill, would this help? Because many prostitutes are like abused by their pimps or their owners or whatever you want to call them. So would legalizing this help them go to the police, or would it help other domestic survivors come forward?
Yeah, we believe so. There's a case in New York City that condoms were used to prosecute prostitutes as proof of their crime. So if it's made legal, they wouldn't have any fear of going to the police because there's no charge, there's no crime they committed. So yeah, that's part of the goal is to.
And also, but by legalizing prostitution, is that good for our economy? Or would that just make be an incentive for more people to go into prostitution?
So
how is that beneficial?
You can answer the fiscal part. Go ahead. And I'll answer the second part.
Yeah, it should help the economy greatly. We recently proposed an amendment that gave it a 45% tax. So that's basically the tax on tobacco, gambling.
This
so
is sin tax.
Yeah, sin tax. And so that should produce a lot of revenue because there's around 1 to 2 million prostitutes in America total. So each one of them, they get taxed at, or at least in Tennessee. So that's more the fiscal aspect of it.
And then on your question about how will this push more young women and men to be prostitutes, I feel like in asking that question, you're kind of assuming that prostitution is a fallback profession, which is kind of the stigma that we're trying to avoid with this bill. So by saying, by asking if this is a fallback kind of profession, that kind of claims that it's dirty or it's wrong or immoral, anything like that. And so we really want to remove the stigma, just like anybody would want to remove the stigma with a legal profession like a garbage man. You can't call a garbage man a fallback career just because you personally wouldn't want to do it. Just if you enjoy it, how are we as citizens able to regulate what somebody else wants to do and enjoys to do, or maybe doesn't enjoy to do it? I mean, it's a job, what can we say? How can we regulate what somebody has to do or wants to do for a living in order to keep their families fed and alive and everything like that?
Great, thank you. It's a really interesting bill. So.
Thank you.